Cabot oil. I know this. I've heard of this. Um, does that mean that I know what to make of it, though? No. That's what we're going to find out real quick. I mean, hopefully quick. Again, I only got 5 minutes. Let's see. It hasn't really gone much of any. I mean, okay, no, it hasn't gone nowhere in 5 years, but it's gone down to down to nowhere, as in not down to nowhere like you're going down, but down to nowhere as in flat to lower. If that makes sense, because it was for between at least actually, you know what, hold on, I want to look at the max. Yeah, I'm not terribly enthused by this chart because this is a small range, especially falling from. Okay, wait. Let me go back to the 5-year chart. This is a small range to be trading in. It was stuck between 25, or maybe not 25. But it was stuck in the 20s. It was stuck in the 20s up until mid to late 2019, at which point it finally broke through what I would argue has been a 3-year low resistance of about 20. Broke through that, reached a low of 13, 14-ish in February of 2020. Somehow actually had the opposite reaction to everyone else once COVID started to spike and went up in March. It's very interesting. And then has kind of stagnated since then, similar to how it stagnated in this range, these about 3 or so years, but it's stagnating at a lower range down here. I would not be surprised to see it stick down here in this range ish. Maybe like the high to mid teens range for the next 3 or so years, like it did here. That could potentially be a pattern that I see forming here. Does that mean that I want to give it a sell? Well, I don't know. You know what? I could be wrong. I should probably look at what more basic information about the company. Just on the face of it, these earnings look nice. Not huge beats, but beats nonetheless. However, if I come down here and look at the annuals, this is not promising. I see. And actually, this kind of coincides with why I see it, why that drop, why this drop happened. Because it's possible that in 2019, that's when the revenue and earnings. Actually, you know what? Never mind. Come to think of it, revenue was lower, sure, but earnings are higher, and I personally would argue earnings are the more important number. Because again, there's two ways to make money. You either bring in more or you spend less. I mean, they brought in less, but they spent less, and it ended up with higher earnings. Like, I personally have no qualms with that. These quarterly charts are shaping up nicely, but again, I don't know if this is just them coming out of the recession lows, or if they are actually a better company than they were in, let's say, 2019. That's very hard to say. All right, just some general overview of the company. I mean they deal in energy. They deal in oil and gas. You can tell that from the name. Hot weather predictions lift natural gas at 29-month high, and yet this can't seem to take off. Oh, speaking of dividends, it has that's not a bad dividend. That's not a bad dividend actually. Let's see. What do I do with the last 10 seconds? I want to see what the conversation section has to say. I think I spent too much time talking about the chart here. I probably shouldn't have done that, but it was a very, very interesting chart. I can't help it. I like charts. Honestly, if I was to do these with nothing but the chart to go off of, well, chart and earnings maybe, because those two things can coincide, and I don't just like to looking at chart patterns. I like looking at charts and then trying to match what seems like events on the chart to events in real life, which can be somewhat of a predictor of how it will respond to certain events in the future. So I personally like to focus on charts and chart patterns a lot. I know, people like fundamentals or whatever. I'm a chart guy. That's why I usually spend so much time looking at charts when I do these, because that's kind of where I live. That's what I understand the best, and that's what I personally think is one of the best precursors as to how a company is going to do going forward. But anyway, I digress. Well, what did I think of COG? I forgot the name of the actual company already, but the symbol's COG. I still think that it can get stuck in that range for much longer. I do think that. And I don't really see a reason why. I don't see any reason why it should break out. I think it's still going to stick in that range for a long while still. Could it break out eventually? Yeah, maybe. But I'm not really confident enough that it can to want to give this anything but a sell, unfortunately. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click that button there.